And I've chosen a particular teaching to teach from, to base my teaching on this morning. And it's called the simile of the saw. And most people who are familiar with this sutta, this is in the middle length discourses, a lot of people just remember the simile that comes at the end, which is kind of harrowing or something. It's like, but it was meant to make an impact. But there's some really important teachings that lead up to that simile. And the reason why the Buddha gave the teaching in the first place was to reprimand this one monk who was, it said he was associating too closely with the bhikkhunis, or certain bhikkhunis. And he was, and whenever anyone criticized the bhikkhunis, these particular bhikkhunis, I don't think it was the whole Sangha, but just certain ones, he would get angry, he would be displeased, and then he would try to make a case out of it. And then if anyone said anything against him, this Venerable Paguna, if anyone said anything against him, they would get upset and angry and displeased and try to make a case out of it. So it seemed like he was making a disruption in the Sangha. So then the Buddha heard about this. Excuse me. A particular monk said, went to the Buddha and said what was happening. And the Buddha said, well, ask that monk to come to me. And I imagine from the way the teaching went that the whole assembly was there. So he was brought before the whole assembly, and the Buddha said to Venerable Paguna, is it true that this is happening? He explained, he just repeats everything verbatim that was said in the sutta. There's a lot of repetition in these teachings. Is it true that any time that anyone criticizes these particular bhikkhunis, you get angry and displeased and you make an issue out of it? And Venerable Paguna is like, yes, Venerable Sir, I think that's true. So it's interesting in the suttas that this is often the case where something is happening and somebody has a complaint against one of the monastics, and the Buddha hears about it, and he says, well, bring that monk to me, bring that person to me. And then he just says, is this true? Is this actually what's happening? And then that monastic has the opportunity to say, oh yeah, that's what's happening, or oh, in the case that it's happening, but this is the reason why. There's a kind of a funny story where this one monk is sitting at the base of the tree, and he's sitting saying, oh, what bliss, oh, what bliss. And the other monks are walking by, what's up with this dude here? What's going on? And so the Buddha says, oh, bring that monk to me, and I'll ask him what's going on. And it was the case where he was really wealthy. It was either a minister or a king, and he had a lot of wealth, and he was needing to protect that wealth. He had guards at every door, and he was living in fear of being attacked. And now he was a monk, and he had no possessions, and he was like, oh, what bliss, it's so wonderful. So then he wasn't at fault, because he was just enjoying the monastic life. But in a lot of cases, in this case particularly, the Buddha reprimanded him for, I think it's more about his mental state than hanging, well, I was also kind of hanging out, probably, maybe too socializing with the bhikkhunis, or these particular bhikkhunis, and then if there's any criticism, he gets upset and angry and displeased. And so the Buddha gave this teaching on 5 courses of speech. This came up from this reprimanding this particular monk. Then it became a teaching to the whole assembly, because it started out with reprimanding him, and then he started to elaborate on it and teach more and more about it. And I'm only going to talk about this particular segment about speech and the state of mind when we're encountering different ways of speaking, how people can speak to us. So first I'll say the teaching that the Buddha gave, and then I'll start giving more explanation about it. So there's 5 ways that people can speak to us. And this is 5 courses. It's what's agreeable and what's disagreeable. So people can speak to us excuse me, in a timely manner or an untimely manner. They can speak truthfully or falsely. They can speak gently or harshly. They can speak harshly, gently, harshly, beneficially, or harmfully, and they can speak with a heart of loving kindness or inner hate. And then the Buddha says, no matter how people speak to us, we should train ourselves in this way. Our mind should remain unaffected. We should utter no evil words. We should be compassionate for their welfare without inner hate. We should start with them, pervading the all-encompassing world with a heart of loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, without ill will. This is how we should train. So this is a training, this is a development of the mind. And we can, when we're encountering other people and when they approach us and speak to us, we can just observe what's going on in the mind and also see, like for me, if this is like timely or untimely. So what might arise in my mind is, this is really a terrible time for them to be telling me this. And then I'm seeing my mind becoming imbalanced as a result of that. And so, okay, this is untimely speech. A lot of times we're busy trying to do something, or we've got a lot of it on our mind. Or the favorite one is when people tell you after the fact, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And so just to think, okay, this is untimely. And for whatever reason, they didn't tell me this at the right time. So can I keep my mind in balance? Can I have compassion for that other person's welfare? No matter how they speak to me, can I have a heart of loving kindness without inner hate? So just, it's a high bar, but just observing what happens. Or it's timely, we welcome it, we're happy about that, but we can't expect that to happen all the time. And then there's true or false. And even things that are true, someone may come to you with something that's true, but it's upsetting. Or the news, some truth. And can we keep our minds in balance with whatever truth we hear, whether it's agreeable, it's pleasant, we're welcome, or it's difficult. And then with false speech, with untrue speech, that could be much more upsetting or breaking trust with people. If you think they're lying to you, or you found out that what they said was an absolute lie, can we keep our minds balanced? Can we have compassion for that other person. And there's it says the all-encompassing world, which includes ourselves. So we may have to have compassion for ourselves first. If someone has done something that, they've said something to cover up something, they're being deceptive, and they've broken your trust with them. Can you have compassion for them? But also feel in your heart that pain, that feeling of betrayal. And can I have compassion for myself? And how can I settle my mind so that I'm not disturbed by this, that I can still have this unconditional love? Can I have unconditional love for myself and for that other person, despite, it doesn't mean your relationship with them may change, or you may, depends on what your relationship with them. You may be able to kindly confront them with the fact that they're not telling the truth to you. It depends on the situation entirely, but can we keep our mind in balance, and just as much as our mind can be in balance, and as much as we can have that unconditional love to meet the situation, that can really inform us. We can tap into our wisdom more readily with a balanced mind, a compassionate and balanced mind. So there's true and false speech, and there's gentle and harsh speech. And of course, the gentle speech is more welcome. We want that. That can also imbalance our mind, because we're going to want more of that, right? We want people to speak to us kindly, gently, but they may speak to us harshly. And can we actually hear what they're saying? Maybe they're speaking really strongly to us because we're not hearing them. And then can we have compassion that this person is irritated for some reason? Maybe they're just having a bad day, or they're in pain. They have a physical pain somewhere, and so then their delivery is more harsh because of that. Their ability to be patient is decreased. So can we be compassionate for, okay, I feel that when someone is speaking harshly to me, I feel that inner kind of disturbance, the unsettling of the body and mind, and can I bring it back into balance? Can I meet that with kindness myself? And kindness starting with myself, my own heart, and then for that other person. And then there's beneficial and harmful. And then, of course, the beneficial is the one we would welcome. The good information that's really helpful to us, of benefit to us. But there's also the harmful speech. Harmful could be, the harshness would be like really being harshly critical and really needling and all that. But the harmful speech would be maybe even trying to divert us into the wrong direction, that encourage us to do something that would be harmful to ourselves or others. So we don't have to follow that. We can hear that, what they're saying, but we don't have to agree with what's being said. If they're, trying to get people riled up and angry about something, they're trying to get people to do things approach things in the wrong manner, some situation, divert people into harmful activity. That may be an example of harmful speech. And getting people riled up, intentionally riling people up. And can we have our minds still in balance, no matter what people are doing, how convincing they try to be, to get us to have unwholesome mental states, and to go along with, hatred or prejudice, or idea of harming others or other living beings. So can we keep our minds in balance? And it's often really hard when it seems like somebody is harming someone else. For some people, that's the hardest to understand, how to be compassionate for the other person. But to know that they're doing this out of suffering. It's not justifying anybody's behavior, but this is coming out of suffering, that they're behaving or speaking in this manner. There might be divisive speech or trying to instigate hatred towards some group or some individual or whatever it is that's harmful. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to go along with it. Can we keep our mind in balance? And with compassion, maybe we may speak to them and say, I don't agree with this, what you're saying. Can our speech be compassionate in that situation? And the last one is, they may speak to us with a heart of loving kindness or inner hate. And whether it says, one translation is secret hate, but it's maybe they're not saying anything directly to us, but I think we can sense through body language, through just the kind of a vibe you're getting from somebody, that they don't like us. They don't like the looks of us, or, you could sense hatred. And can we be compassionate? Can we have our minds in balance, even if we really sense hatred from someone else? So that's the 5 courses of speech. And will it be helpful if I just repeat all 5 of them again? So there's timely or untimely, true or false, gentle or harsh, beneficial or harmful, and said with a heart of loving kindness or inner hate. So no matter how people speak to us, can our minds or hearts be unaffected by that? And then there's so this is the equanimity we're trying to develop. So we're trying to, we develop equanimity when we sit in the cushion, or we look at our own hearts. And then we can be accepting of what's arising. We might see this ucky stuff coming up in our memories and hearts. And can we hold that with equanimity and kindness and compassion? So this is one way this practice, we balance the mind when we're in sitting meditation, but then when we encounter others, no matter how they're speaking to us, then that's the kind of the test of this practice that we're doing. Keep the mind in balance, no matter what's happening around us. Can we? There's a certain kind of acceptance. It doesn't mean like we agree with it, but this is what's happening now. This is things as they are. That expression is I hear a lot. Things as they are. So this helps to this is the state of this person right now and how they're approaching me. How do I meet it with loving kindness and compassion, this situation? So we don't, and then the mind will remain unaffected and will utter no evil or harmful words. So we don't retort back something equally harmful or, like in anger, because we realize this person is not speaking truthful or it's untimely, or you don't like the tone of their voice or whatever. We don't have to retort back in an unkind way. And then having compassion for their welfare, as I was saying, just understanding, this is where this person is coming from now, for whatever reason. Can I have some understanding of what they may be going through now? Or, it's not that we agree, but we just, as a suffering human being in the world, can we have compassion for them? And then starting with them, I realized this for myself when I was doing this practice, that they're kind of a conduit. So I start with them, but it's going through them and out through the whole world. So starting with them having a heart of loving kindness. So it doesn't just stop with that person. It goes everywhere and through them, whether they can take it in or not. But it's for everyone's benefit if we develop this heart, this unconditional love for them and for all beings. So that helps me, because I'm not just focused on that one person that might be saying something upsetting to me, but it goes outwards and everywhere. So it's bigger than that. They talk about it abundant, expansive, immeasurable, free from hostility, free from ill will. So this is the kind of love we're developing for all beings. And then the Buddha ends with, this is how we should train ourselves. So this is a training, a taming of the mind. And in this sutta, there's a simile. It's called a simile of the sal trees. And he says, he's talking to the mendicants, but he's talking to all of us, that we should abandon what's unwholesome or unskillful. There's different ways of translating this word, akusala. So we should, and devote ourselves to skillful or wholesome qualities. And then he starts to talk about the salt tree grove. He said, suppose near a village, in India, the salt trees are sacred. And there's these groves that are like sanctuaries. And so suppose there's a young salt tree grove near the village, and there's a crooked salt saplings, and it's choked with weeds. And so this person wants to nurture this salt tree grove. So they take out the crooked saplings, and they clear out the weeds, and they allow the straight, well-formed saplings to grow. And he says this is in the same way we should abandon the unwholesome, like the crooked saplings and the weeds, that care that we take as I guess they're orchard, I don't know what you call it. Anyway, the guardian of the grove would very carefully remove, and very discerning too. Anyone who's a gardener knows you look carefully what's a weed and what do we want to nurture, and you very carefully remove what's unwholesome, what's unskillful in ourselves in the same way. And that also allows the good qualities to come up and to grow and to come to maturity. So this, in the same way, we can mature in our practice by, but it's through observation, this careful observation of ourselves, that we see what's harmful, what's unskillful, and then we can remove it carefully. It's not that, there's also an idea of compost, which ones are good for the compost and which ones aren't. But the compost is kind of our experience in seeing, oh yes, this is still here. Oh yes, I still need to do this kind of work. And this strengthens our development. So this is a really beautiful simile that I think about too, because it takes 60 years for the salt trees to come to maturity. But they bear fruit in 15 years. They start bearing fruit. So that's, if we can think of our practice in that same way. So there's some other similes too. I'm not going to go into all of them, but another one is, this is kind of a funny one. It's the simile of the great earth. And so suppose there was this person who had, they come along and they have a spade and a bucket. And they're saying, let this great earth be without earth. And they dig here and they dig there and they scatter the earth, and it says they urinate here and they spit there and say, let this earth, great earth, be without earth. And then the Buddha asks, do you think that person would be successful and make the earth without earth? No? Yes? So they say, no, Venerable Sir. Why is that? Because the earth is great, expansive, immeasurable, limitless. You can't make it without earth. So he said, in the same way, we should develop our minds like the great earth, expansive, immeasurable, limitless. And then then anything that anyone says to us is insignificant, right? It's like the person trying to dig up the earth and spit on the earth to get rid of the earth. It's useless, right? So this abundant, expansive, measureless mind, it can be with the heart of loving kindness, or just that sense of expansiveness. And there's another simile of space. And there is a person who has all this wonderful paint, the dyes. They talk about the natural dyes, indigo and turmeric and different dyes that they had at the time of the Buddha. But they come along and they say, I will paint a picture in space. And they're an expert artist, right? And they try to paint in space. And can they do that? Is that possible? No, of course not. It's not possible. So they're just weariness and futility from trying to do that. And so why is that? Because there's no place for it to land. There's no substance. There's no anything to support that. So then he said, in the same way, our minds can be like that. So the words of other people will not affect us, because there's no place for it to land. We don't have to support it. When we hear words, so a lot of times there's just like, maybe someone says something in about half a minute to us, right? And then we're carrying what they said for days and days and ruminating in it. And this is giving it substance and holding it up. So for our minds are there's no place for it to land, like space. This is a helpful one for me sometimes too, if I realize, yeah, I'm supporting it, I'm perpetuating it by ruminating over what they said again and again and again and again. What they said was just half a minute, something. And then it can be just gone. You know, I don't have to take it personally, seriously. I don't have to have it ruin my day. So that's a simile of space. I have some notes here. Okay. Yeah, so this can be things that people say to us, or written word, or even like the news. When it gets really bad, I hear some terrible things that are happening in the world. I can have compassion. I can, but it's important to keep the mind equanimous, even if it's just really, it's a reality, it's a truth, like I was saying, that sometimes the truth is really hard to bear. But can we keep our minds equanimous? And so that's written word as well as what we hear over the media. So it's just not the individuals coming to us and saying something personally to us. We can extend it out to different ways of hearing information, gathering information. So the sutta ends with a simile of the saw. Are you ready for it now? Okay. So the Buddha says, suppose there are these horrible bandits, these low-down bandits that seize you and start cutting you up with a two-handled saw. He said, if any one of you, any one of the monastics, has hatred towards those bandits while they're doing this, you would not be following my teaching. This is not aligned with my teaching to have hatred to somebody, even something so horrible, right? So he said, so if we reflect on this, how can we have, even no matter how people speak to us, can we have an equanimous mind? Can we not let that affect us? So it's kind of like he's giving an extreme, right? Something so extreme. And he doesn't want us to have hatred, even in that extreme situation. But can our minds remain unaffected, you know, just with what people are speaking to us? So that's the simile of the saw. And so I'd like to go back to the salt tree grove. So can we make our hearts like that salt tree grove and just nurture the good qualities within us and let those grow? And then when we see the unwholesome, the harmful qualities in ourselves, can we, it's just like when you're weeding, you want to not damage the other plants as you're pulling out what's harmful. So not harming ourselves in the process when we see unwholesome or unskillful qualities of mind, but also seeing the emergence and nurturing the emergence of skillful qualities. And then our hearts can be a sanctuary for ourselves and also for others, that we can extend that those good qualities outwards to others. So I'll offer this for your reflection.